All right, welcome to the September 16th Eclipse OpenJ9 community call. As always, please add your name and affiliation to the list of attendees just so we know who's been joining the calls. And we'll kick things off as we always do by pausing for a minute to let people add any additional business that they'd like to add into the agenda or to raise any community concerns. Don't worry, this isn't your only chance. If there are other things you want to bring up throughout the call, feel free to jump in or jump in at the end when we get to the any other business section. We don't have a lightning talk scheduled this week, but there are some new features in JDK 15 that we should be looking at getting lightning talks scheduled for, particularly something around hidden classes and sealed types. Just looking at who's on the call. And all right, Teresa, I see you're on the call. So it's probably something we should talk about, whether you have some time to pull together something for the sealed types lightning talk. And then I'll follow up with Hung, who did the implementation for hidden classes as well, to see if he's able to give us a quick preview of that feature.
Yeah, sure. I don't think it will take very long to pull together.
Perfect. Can I schedule you in for next week? Or is that not enough time?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so as usual, we'll take a look at the user-raised items next. I see that there's a discussion around a new JStat tool, which has been tagged as a beginner item. So this is a great opportunity for somebody. If you're looking for a way to get involved in the project, this would be a great place to get started, to get involved and understand how the project works and building it, and produce a useful tool. So if somebody is looking for a way to join, this would be a great one to jump on. And then there's a question around XDump tool support. Which has not been addressed. Is probably something we should have a discussion in the item on, because it's changing a fairly low-level behavior. All right, jumping back to the agenda then. I already gave the usual reminder around help wanted and beginner issues, so I think we can skip that and take a look at our download trends. J9 trend. So we're still seeing an increase, but less of an increase than I thought we had been seeing last time. Seen a bit of a sharper spike on the last call, so. All right, hopefully we'll see a jump in the downloads when JDK 15 is released. Do we know if this trend tracking will pick up 15 automatically? It's not part of the feature version radio buttons.
I'll have to check that. I'm not sure.
Yep. Then we'll jump back and we will take a look at our usual release discussions. So we have 0.22 coming up basically right now, given that the OpenJDK builds were released, I believe, yesterday. when I opened the milestone plan earlier today, I still see that there are a couple of items here that I think we've been working on stop ship decisions on. So I'll just go through them one at a time. We can check where we're at and what the determination on them is. So for the Java foreign APIs, looks like we're having trouble reading the core files. Is this something that we think should be a stop ship, or is it, given that it's only addressing or only affecting the preview APIs for the Java foreign section, is this something we want to move out of this release?
So this is one of the things you get by picking up Java 15. It seems like it should work.
Certainly be ideal. Do we understand how far off from getting core files that we can use to drive the investigation we are?
So I ran a 20x grinder last night, and it didn't reproduce the problem on the OpenJ9 external machines. I could try more grinders. If we could only reproduce it at adopt, then maybe somebody needs to hop onto the machine and run JExtract so that we could look at the core file from another machine.
Okay. Yeah, that would be good. Do we have somebody on the call who would be able to do that for us?
Can you spell out a bit more of exactly what's required? I'm not able to physically log onto the machines myself, but if we have some instructions, I'm sure we can find someone who could.
So Stuart can get
there's
onto the physical. Go on, Peter. Answer Simon's question.
There's a utility called JExtract that comes with OpenJ9, and you basically just run it on the core file that's produced, and it will look at all the shared libraries that are referenced from the core file and gather them up and zip them all up along with the core file. So we don't really need the libraries that come with OpenJ9 itself, because we can obviously download those. But what we need is the OS shared libraries that are used, because without those, you can't look at the stack traces in the core file properly.
I'm trying to relate it to the failure that diagnostics we've already got. So we need to either identify the machine that this failure occurred on and get back on that machine, or reproduce it on the machine and do it as soon as it happens. All right?
Yep.
Right. But
I suspect the test workspace is removed anyway afterwards.
Yeah, so it might be a matter of copying the core file back to the machine and putting the OpenJ9 JVM. That part's probably optional, but if you could put the OpenJ9 VM in the same place that it was and then run JExtract on the core file.
Where is the core file now? Sorry, is it in this issue that's on the screen that I'm only looking at the bottom of the top?
I don't know if there's any. I don't know if there's any links to core files that are still active. I think there are some grinders that were run, so we'd have to look at those grinders and see if there's a link to a core file that still works.
So this is the
So it sounds
intermission
like
one, isn't it? So it only happens very rarely, this, doesn't it?
It said 1 in 10 and 1 in 20
Okay, so
further down in the issue.
right. Occasionally.
1 in 10, though, is something
Well,
could grind and hopefully reproduce.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there was two grinders, the 10x grinder and a 20x grinder, and it happened once in each grinder.
Yes, but Peter, if you can write down instructions of what you need to run on what, then we can see if we can do that.
Okay. I'll also run another grinder at OpenJ9 because if I can reproduce it there, I can do it myself.
Right. Yeah.
So as of right now, this one is considered stop ship until we have a core file can evaluate the cause of this. And we have an exception in initializer error.
I think the feeling towards this one is it's not stop ship. There is some similar failure that occurs on hotspot, although I'm not sure it's the exact same failure on hotspot as it is on OpenJ9.
Interestingly, this last comment is that it's failing with the builds built at Adopt, passing with the ones built at OpenJ9.
Yes. So that is concerning.
Are we sure we run with exactly the same test material at both places?
Should be.
Yeah.
That's the way the tests work. They go get common test material.
Looks like this test is also failing on hotspot.
Yeah, so it's failing consistently at Adopt on JDK 15. I think the exception started out with a string buffer error or index out of bounds. I'm not sure how much is captured in either of the defects.
So it looks like they're both failing in the teardown here.
Yeah.
That comment makes it look like it's the same failure, but earlier on there's a stack trace that makes it look different.
I think it might just be how much of the stack trace has been put in the issue.
So my only concern with this failure is the fact that it's only failing on adopt builds.
It is weird.
It seemed like what we're building at adopt is not the same as what we're building at the OpenJ9 project, and that difference is causing a problem.
So the dependencies that are used there to run this test, I guess, are we sure they're pulling the same at adopt to OpenJ9? Where do those dependencies come from?
There's only one set of test material, so it should be pulling the exact same test material in all cases, unless you specified something different. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, typically they're pulled by URL from Maven or wherever. So, yeah, worth checking.
I think Lana just said that she'd run exactly the same test against an Eclipse build and an Adopt build and got different results. I think just by switching the URL on saying as to where to get the SDK from. So I don't think there was any other change in those runs. Is that right, Lan? The only variable was where the build came from. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Both cases are just git clone from the Renaissance repo to get test material.
Okay. So.
Sorry, I came into this a bit late. Were they both run on the same machine?
Oh, with a question for you, Lan.
I don't think I have to double check. I didn't specify machine, so they're not running on the same machine. Well, what? No, they're not running on the same machine. You think the machine is the problem here? We can
I don't know. It's just another variable that we should consider.
Yeah, we can try on the same machine to see whether it makes any difference.
Yeah, I think
it's easy to specify that in the characters. Yep.
Yeah, so I think I'd like to get to the bottom of this, but when I look at the adopt release, it looks like they've agreed that this issue is not going to block the release from an adopt perspective. So I'm tempted to say the same for an OpenJ9 perspective, that this is an acceptable failure in the release build. Does anyone disagree with that?
I'm fine with that.
I will move this into the 023 milestone. And that leaves us one other failure. Which is another
This
crash.
one we have a fix for. There's a fix for this, and we've actually delivered the OMR part of the fix into the 022 release stream. And I assume looks like maybe the OpenJ9 part's done now.
Yes, has been delivered as well.
Yeah, so fix is in.
So the fix is in, this can be closed?
I think so.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So that leaves us with this crash blocking our release. This is high priority. And I guess, as we continue on with this, probably move the discussion around this for any coordination into Slack so we can get people looking at it as soon as possible, the minute we have usable core files.
I think Alan's already looking at it. He said he was going to do what he could to make it more reproducible, because I don't think he was able to reproduce it locally.
Yep. All right, so I guess we should probably continue to connect via Slack around the status of this and whether it continues to be a stop ship, or when we get to the point where we can either rule that out or have a fix in hand and slip the JDK 15 release day by day. Release is slipping day by day till All right. So anything else we need to discuss on JDK 15?
Yeah, I did have one other question. What status are we putting ARch64 in for JDK 15? Choices would be don't do it at all, put it out as an early access, or put it out as a full-blown supported release.
I believe we had previously discussed this and agreed to keep it as an early access platform.
Even for JDK 15.
For
That was the case
15.
for 11. Yeah.
Seems like there might be more problems on JDK 15 with ARch64, but I don't know if there's anybody in the call who can speak to that.
I'll follow up with Daryl, try to find out.
So yeah, early access will be fine, but we need to remember when we submit the bills, there's some slightly different mechanics on submitting the bills, so we need to know kind of in advance.
I think unless Daryl comes back with a different answer, we proceed with keeping it as an early access for 15. I know the team working on this has been focused on 11, and I would expect that we would take the early access flag off 11 before we are able to do that on any other release.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be either don't
Are
bother
you
or
comfortable? I was going to say, are you comfortable with it going out as an early access, even at that level, as opposed to just not putting it out as part of the release?
I'm not aware. I haven't looked at the test results, so if there are massive failures on ARch 64, then we should not be putting it out. But if it's mostly stable, then I would be comfortable with the early access.
So it was run during the M2 builds, was it not? I think
It was,
Andrew
yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
you opened at least one issue related to ARch64.
Yeah, it didn't seem that bad, I don't think.
No, so what I've seen is a few additional crashes. There's something that this tag mismatch business, which I've been looking into, it might only be happening on Ubuntu 16.04 at Adopt, not on the RHEL boxes. But there are a few intermittent crashes, which I think we've known about for some time, and probably there on 11 as well.
So
Yeah, I didn't see that on
Daryl says he thinks early access, the quality looks decent in his opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, when I did the triage of M2, I didn't think it was significantly worse than the others, so general view.
That sounds good. At OpenJ9, we haven't done any testing of ARch64 on Java 15.
We'll add that as a note for here for the next release. Sure. 60.
So we don't really have enough machines to test it.
I think we only have one, right? ARch64, only one at OpenJ9, and we don't have any internally, so.
It's kind of a manual process to keep farming out tests to the one machine that we have, and it takes days to get through the JDK 8 and JDK 11 testing. So I'm not excited about trying to run JDK 15 testing on it as well.
I thought that was quite a large box, and we were looking at splitting it up.
We couldn't split it up.
Okay.
We did look at splitting it up, and I don't think we have the right license to do that. We can only use it as a single machine.
Okay.
Yeah, we have quite a few machines at Adopt now, so we have the capacity there if we need to, do testing and have you guys look at the results from it.
So I guess what we haven't done is we haven't run any functionality testing on Java 15 for AR64, because that only runs at OpenJ9 right now. I guess there's no reason why I couldn't file that off today, just as a double check.
Okay.
Andrew, do we have the functional testing running at Adopt on that platform?
I think it's running them all, isn't it?
I would have thought so by default, but it might just be worth checking. So we may already have the results for that. In which case,
Yeah, I was
My
wondering what you
understanding was
mean.
Adopt doesn't run any functionality testing. It only runs system testing and other test suites.
When
No,
you
I'm
say
pretty sure it
you
runs
mean
functional.
sanity functional, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's run. Hang on, let me double check. Oh, I see what you mean. I think you're right, actually. Yeah.
Is it not?
Then
Okay.
sanity system, extended system, sanity perf, sanity OpenJDK. Yeah, we only run on X Linux special functional. In fact, that's all special functional on X Linux.
Not even sure what that tests.
That's the
That's right.
MVCF test. So yes, we run the OpenJDK functional test, but not the OpenJ9 functional test at Adopt.
Okay, so yeah, it probably is working that off just to check it.
So I could open an issue to request that we run the functional testing for AR64 at Adopt, because that would give us testing that we don't have at OpenJ9 until we get more machines.
Yeah, I don't know what the capacity hit would be. And Shelley would probably have a good idea. But,
I would imagine that would be okay because we do have quite a few AR64 machines now. We've got a few from
I'll
Amazon.
open the issue and we can see what the response is in the issue. Because we don't do any regular testing of AR64.
What was the original reason
OpenJ9.
why we have a functional test set it up?
I think it was machine capacity, which may have changed over time, and the fact that we would just be duplicating the testing that was running at OpenJ9.
And I think the Adopt testing has been geared towards the Aqua testing suite, and most of the OpenJ9 functional testing is very OpenJ9 specific.
Right.
I think to be fair, since we're only talking about putting this as an early access, I wouldn't be too concerned about it anyway if it's passing all the main tests. I wouldn't necessarily block the release just because we haven't run and triaged the functional ones that we've never run before.
Well, we have run them before. I usually manually run them at release time, but I haven't done so yet for Java 15.
Yeah.
I would expect them to pass or mostly pass, so I'll just fire something off today and we can see where we stand. As long as it's not a disaster, I don't see why we wouldn't put it out as early access like we've already decided.
and since it's a separate pipeline anyway to do that at Adopt, we'll just get on and do all the other platforms as non-early access and get that up as early access when and if we can.
All right. For the October quarterly release, we had originally intended to code split September 6th, but we have not done that yet. Is there a particular date that we want to retarget for our code split?
I like to target the weekend because we have extra testing that runs on the weekend. So we can get the big picture about the status of the quality of the release.
All right, so
We
retarget
could aim for this weekend.
to September 20. It's 19th to target the Sunday.
We do seem to have quite a few failures happening in the nightly builds. I haven't had a chance to go through them. I assume there's issues, but probably not. I don't know if people are looking at the issues.
It's a good question. There's a number of things that are in the milestone plan, but I think there's been a lot of focus on finishing off Java 15. And the nightly builds have probably not been getting the attention they need.
Is there anyone on the call who is trying to get feature work into the next release that isn't already delivered?
Just taking a quick page through this, I don't see anything labeled as feature work that isn't delivered.
I suspect that if issues were opened by Jason, they may not even been put into the milestone plan because Jason can't add that label.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
So I'll be able to catch up this week and make sure we have issues for all the failures in the nightly and that they're put into the milestone plan and the right people are poked to start looking at them if they aren't already.
Okay. In terms of milestone 2 then, we probably want to push that date back as well. Given we're talking.
So what we could do is the 4th. If we went any further, then we're guaranteeing a slip. Because the release should happen. We expect OpenJDK to release on the 13th.
Well, let's target the 4th for now and see how quickly or how much we can pull that in. If everything that needs to be in is delivered before that, then we should be okay.
Are we sure it's the 13th and not the 20th?
I am not sure. I thought it was
because I'm just looking at the Java minus version output that comes from the current JDK 11 builds, and it seems to say 2020 10 20, which would indicate it's a week later.
Okay.
If that's accurate, yeah. Gives you another week.
I thought there was a formula, which was the...
I think it's the closest to the 17th, which would mean 20th was correct. Because that's 3 days away instead of 4. The closest Tuesday to the 17th, I think, is the formula.
Okay. I thought it was the second Tuesday of the month.
Not the last time I saw the formula, unless that was out of date. But that was, I think I saw it a couple of weeks ago. Certainly that's 2020 10 20 is what's coming out of the current builds.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Gives us a little more time.
Yeah.
So it puts us at the 26th if we want to give us till the Monday. Often we get it done by the Friday, but I like to put the Monday just so we have that extra time if something goes wrong, because we don't know what's going to show up for security fixes at the last minute that we might have to take extra time to resolve.
All right. I realize we're over time now, so we'll skip forward a little bit quicker unless there's something people want to call out on this, on the 023 October release. In terms of the adopt update, is there anything additional to the upcoming release that needs to be called out?
No, I don't believe so.
In terms of machines, Adam indicated he had to drop, so just call out his update that the Windows machines are being replaced due to account changeovers, and that we're having issues with the CentOS machines again. All right. So if anyone has an idea of what may be causing the disk to fill up, please call that out or let Adam know. In terms of any other business, Devin, do you have an update on CMake?
Yeah, so last I think I told you guys is there was some machine differences that was cropping up between our internal Jenkins machines and the OpenJ9 Jenkins thing. So it was working internally, but then the AIX build was doing some weird stuff on the external machines. And fixing that, you break one, you have to fix the other, and going back with that. I have patches now that seem to be working, and they pass the tests, at least on the internal machines. So I have those PRs open and looking to get those merged, and then run the tests externally to make sure that everything still works there. And then on the Windows side, I'm just piecing up some PRs to get the last of those fixes in.
The ZOS build issues, did they get resolved?
I'm going to say no, I don't recall, but I haven't looked at it for a while, and I don't think so. But recently we just got the CMake installed on the ZOS build machine, so I can go back and take a look at that and not have to use my hack together solution.
Okay. In terms of the Helm chart and operator discussion, don't see Raghu on the call. There's still some concerns there that have been raised and ongoing discussion with that issue. I believe they've recently opened an additional PR to add a Helm chart, so we'll have to take a look at that as well. So, more progress there.
Yeah, I believe they're evaluating whether to fall back to just doing a Helm chart, which would be a lot less of a code requirement, not the million lines of code and 3,000 files. Or alternatively, I guess they would be looking at creating another repository to hold that code, because I don't think anybody wants it in the main repo.
Yeah. I think it would be much easier to review and comment on the PRs that they're working on if they were very clear on what the operator and Helm charts they're providing provides to a user. as somebody who's not deeply embedded in Helm or in operators, the functionality being proposed isn't entirely clear, and I don't know if that's a lack of understanding on my part or if there's something that they could do to clarify what features are actually built into the operators or the Helm charts that they're proposing to be created.
I don't disagree with your assessment. I have the same issue.
I think we'll need to continue to work with them on how to get this brought to the project.
Agree.
Andrew gave an update on the microjit discussion in the planning Slack channel, so I'll leave that there. People feel free to follow up and read that. I don't see Daryl on the call to continue the discussion on removing ARM32 support. So we'll leave this on the agenda until the next meeting. In terms of the snapshot project, the snapshot branch has been created on both the OpenJ9 repo and the OpenJ9 OMR repo. The initial prototype code has been open sourced into those repos, and I have signed up to keep things up to date with the main branch as well. So that work is, or that project has started moving in, and I've started creating some markdown documents for how to build it, and should be something coming either today or tomorrow on how to generate a snapshot and restore it. So more information is coming there, but just for everyone's awareness that has been created now. All right. Is there any other business people would like to discuss today?
No, only that I've put a couple of links into the chat that mention the Tuesday closest to the 17th clause.
Thanks, Stuart. All right, then, if there's nothing else, then we'll meet again on September the 23rd. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sam. Bye.
Thank you.